guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled Where's My $100? Alright, so we've been ordering from the same small mom and pop pizza and sub place since we moved out here early this year. Every time we've ordered I've always tipped a $100 bill to the driver, be it a $15 order or a $300 order. Many years ago I was a pizza delivery driver, with my entire week hinging on the charity of others as I deliver delicious pies, so I try to always do this. I also always do it in cash so they don't have to report it if they don't want and can just keep that crisp Benji to themselves on the down low. This brings us to last night as my son, nephew and one of their friends were over for a little LAN-style Call of Duty, having brought their PCs and taken over my living room lol. As any good dad would with a 3.5 KD in search and destroy, I ordered 2 20-inch pies and a couple bottles of Mountain Dew as I prepared to cause mental anguish on the youth of today. Paid by card over the phone and commenced talking smack at these 15-year-old kids like it's 2009 and I'm on an Xbox 360, waiting for the food to arrive. About 40-ish minutes later there's a knock on the door and I open it. Reaching into my wallet I realize I've only got a $20 and a $10 on me, no biggie. A $30 tip on a $55 order should be just fine, right? Absolute not. I'm a horrible person apparently. As I go to hand the pizza boy the $30 and grab the pies he jerks back and says, "That's not $100. Which caught me a bit off guard so I chuckled and said, "Yeah mate, it's all the cash I've got today. Maybe next time eh?" Delivery driver, DD from here on, no. Where's my $100? Me, well mate, it's a tip. I'm not required to give you anything after the delivery fee am I? DD, the only reason I took this order was that $100, me, well I don't have it this time and it's not like we're outside of your delivery zone, $30 for a 20-minute drive sounds pretty good to me. DD hands me the pies and takes the $30, then tells me, "I'll be keeping this since you don't have my $100, and shows me the bag of Mountain Dew as he starts to back away. So I say, "Hey mate, please don't make me call your boss. I really don't want to be that guy." Immediately, almost cutting me off, DD starts screaming, "You won't do that, I'll F you up and take my $100 and keep what you gave me. Where's my $100 a-hole?" Having heard DD the kids come running and I hand the pies to my nephew. Turning back to DD, who's still screaming obscenities mind you. I ask him one last time for the sodas and all I get is a, "F you, gimme my $100. I sighed, looked at the kids who not 20 minutes ago I was promising absolute ruination to and decide it's just not worth it. I tell DD to have a nice night, and close and lock the door. DD started banging on my door still screaming obscenities and demanding $100. I called the pizza shop and explained what was going on to the manager, DD still banging in the background. Told the manager, owner, whatever that if he didn't get his driver out of here I'll be calling the police. Pizza place, PP, put me on hold for a few minutes and I hear DD go quiet. DD leaves not long after as PP comes back on the line. PP tells me they're terribly sorry and they'll be firing DD as soon as he returns to PP. I ask about my Mountain Dews which I haven't received and they offer me a redelivery of them or a coupon for my exact order in full the next time I call. I explain to PP I just need the Mountain Dew as I've got a house of 15-year-olds who are learning a life lesson through tactical gaming. Thankfully PP was able to send out the Mountain Dew within the half hour and actually threw in a whole cheesecake as an apology, which made my wife and her sister quite happy. I know it can be hard out there in the food service industry, and I do believe everyone is entitled to a fair wage, but don't always expect your favorite goose to lay a golden egg on command. Many 15-year-olds were hurt in the making of this story, though only their egos and the damage wasn't permanent. The next story is titled Miss Manners very politely puts kid-hating Karen in her place. Miss Manners writes a syndicated column answering questions about etiquette and manners. This is a letter that somebody wrote in asking for advice. Dear Miss Manners, I live in what one would describe as an upper-middle-class neighborhood. My husband and I spent a great deal of money to make our backyard resemble a resort, including a 6-foot privacy fence, since we could not go on vacation the last few years due to COVID. It was very quiet and peaceful until new neighbors moved in next door. They have 5 children. As most children do, they enjoy playing outside, and they are constantly loud and screaming. I feel as though I cannot fully enjoy the luxury of my backyard due to the incessant shrieking. I work very hard during the day as a manager of a surgery center and like to relax in my own sanctuary when I return home. Do I have to suffer in silence so that they can be happy? What is the proper way to handle the situation? Gentle reader. Are you suggesting that the children be taught not to use their outside voices outside? Normally, Miss Manners would propose that you invite the family over and then casually mention the issue. Don't you find that in this neighborhood it's hard to contain the noise level? But with 5 of them, the parents may well start using your oasis to escape the children themselves. Miss Manners therefore suggests that you invest in noise-canceling headphones to go along with your privacy fence. Eventually the children will grow up and move out. The next story is titled Am I the A-hole for not letting my neighbors access our pool? Not the a-hole. My spouse, 45, and I, 46, bought a house in February with a pool. It's a non-WA single-family home. We keep for ourselves. Have friends over occasionally, and we enjoyed having people over for food, drinks, and of course swimming pool parties now that the weather allows for it. We fit in the neighborhood, or so we thought, until neighbors from 3 surrounding homes, and we got into a weird conversation around their expectations to access the pool for weekend and holidays pool parties. Apparently, the owners before us had kids and were friends with the neighborhood kids. The neighborhood kids and adults would use the pool when they wanted to. The gate was always open, and they even had their inflatables nearby and had arranged paying for the maintenance of the pool. We told them that we're fairly private people and enjoy our privacy and don't see ourselves letting neighbors having access to our backyard whenever they want. Each time any of us are wandering around outside, they just ask over and over and try to sell the idea of having access to it. They offer money and sharing the maintenance fees and such. I was trying to enjoy gardening and was cornered once again. I just really firmly told them that they really need to stop talking about the pool each time they see us, stood up and left. As I was walking back towards the gate to the backyard, within our property line, they were following me talking my ears off. One of the lady moms was still going on and on because she asked nicely and offers to pay for the maintenance, and that she really didn't understand why I was so against it. I turned around and asked them to leave now and never follow me on my property ever again. We politely decline over and over. And we are seriously getting tired of the nagging and the pool and their access to it being the only thing they want to connect with us about. It's not like we created a bond or anything. All convos are about the pool. We had a party yesterday evening, and as I was showing the front yard to my friend, my neighbor popped up and was talking about how it must be nice to be invited to enjoy the pool. And I said to her, "Can you go now? I'm having company." Am I the a-hole for not wanting neighbors to have access to my property and seriously losing my patience with their expectations? Comment said, "Not the a-hole, those are some entitled persistent neighbors." Also, the liability of having an open gate for everyone's access. What if a kid wandered and drowned? That will be on you. Stand your ground, I would do the same. Good luck. Another comment said, "Not the a-hole, that's some annoying neighbors you got. Can't believe there are people out there with so little shame. They don't need to understand why you are against it. You are against it and that's it. If they want a pool so bad, they should move into a house with pool." The next story is titled Karen wanted me to call my coworker on his day off to make her order. Alright, this happened a few years ago. I used to work for coffee shop. Keep in mind that we were required to move through drinks quickly. This will be important later. I was on the coffee bar that day. Who do I see walk in? Our most annoying Karen yet. She is so specific with her order to the point of staring at the baristas while making her drink. Which by far is one of the most irritating things that baristas hate when customers do. Anyways, this Karen knows this one barista, who was a buddy of mine, that does her drink right. We all do it the same, so she asks for a caramel macchiato and goes into so much detail as usual. However, my buddy is on his off day, and since I was the one on the coffee bar, guess what? I had to deal with her this time. Whatever, I start making her drink, and every part of the process felt like it took 1,000 hours because she kept stopping me. "Oh, can you just dump a half a pump of vanilla out? No, too much milk, take a 1/4 teaspoon out. Can you tilt your body this way so I can see how you are making the drink?" Yes, she asked that. And there she said it, the most entitled sentence so far, "You know, can you call the other barista that usually makes my drink to come in and just make it?" I can't believe what I just listened to, be honest, and at first I think she is joking. There is no way she is actually serious, right? Right? No. She was serious. Ma'am, I just finished your drink. Here you go. He knows how to do it right. Just see if he wants to come in. Respectfully, ma'am, I'm not going to do that. It's his day off. She storms out like I cursed her out or something. I also just think to myself, you don't have anything to do other than to wait here until he comes and makes your drink? Like really? I ended up telling my coworker about it and he and I had a laugh. The next story is titled Neighbors Threw Their Trash All Over Our Deck. Reported their car for registration fraud. Neighbors from our apartment building decided to be psycho about assigned trash bins. There's 4 for the whole apartment building and it really doesn't matter. It shouldn't be assigned. They could have thrown their trash in my trash bin, and I wouldn't have cared. There's 4 to use. So, they took their trash and strung it out all over our deck and told the landlord it was us and even tried to get us to admit we did it when it's clear they did. We're in Massachusetts and their car has Texas plates. They have resided here since September. In Massachusetts you have to register your car as soon as you move somewhere. There's no grace period. It's registration fraud and excise tax evasion if you don't. I reported their car to the anonymous tip portal smiley face. They can have fun with the investigation and resulting fees. The next story is titled Party Every Night and Keep the Whole House Awake? Don't say I didn't warn you. Some years ago, me and a few friends of mine were living together in this old but really fancy 3-story houses. The owner of the house had walled off all the stairways and made 3 apartments, 1 for each floor, and we lived in the middle on the ground floor. As this was an old house, soundproofing was really not a thing, but it was never a problem until both the tenants above and below us moved out and new ones appeared out of the blue one night. This story is about the 4 to 8 guys living in the 4-bedroom collective in the attic. Not a joke. I never did figure out just how many were actually living in that tiny space. From the very first night they showed up, the non-existent soundproofing became very apparent, and we quickly understood that this might become an issue if not addressed. So after a few days we rang their doorbell and introduced ourselves and really tried to greet them as friendly neighbors, making sure to be very polite and welcoming. And at the same time, we brought up the non-existent soundproofing and asked very nicely if they could keep that in mind and that we would be very grateful. Of course, at this point they were all smiles and agreed right away to keep noise down on weekday nights, and in return we would not complain about music and partying on the weekends. After all we wanted was to sleep in peace when we had work in the morning. That did not last long. I will spare you all the friendly and not so friendly, and passive-aggressive ways we tried to find a solution to our problem. Let's just say there were a myriad of attempts made to solve this peacefully. Eventually I flat out told them that I would no longer take our noise complaints to them, the manager of the apartments, or the owner of the house, and I explained that according to our laws, excessive noise after a certain time on weekdays was in fact illegal, although common sense and decency usually made this a non-issue, and in the future, I would take our complaints to the police instead. And I got laughed at for it. Now comes the revenge part. We all knew that some of the guys upstairs were dealing all kinds of fun stuff, and when I met someone, I knew through work out in the parking lot heading for the attic with a wad of cash, I got all the intel I needed. And so, I waited for the weekend to pass, and you could probably have guessed it. The following Monday night they had a big party still going strong well into the AM, and by the smells and the smoke that wafted out of the open windows I knew this was my moment. I called the non-emergency number for the police, registered my complaint and gave some backstory. The nice lady on the other end was very understanding and said a patrol car would come around in a little while. I thanked her and said I would meet them outside. About an hour or so later the patrol car pulled up and I went outside for a chat, and being the helpful citizen I am, I explained that the doorbell was busted. It wasn't, but a stairway in the backyard would take them up on the balcony outside of the upstairs living room where the party was at. The officer thanked me, and I walked back inside our apartment while grinning from ear to ear. I knew what was about to happen, and it was going to be glorious. While I was posted up in a window overlooking the parking lot, this night quickly turned into the best sleepless night I have ever had. One of the officers remained by the front door while 2 more went around the back. Now I don't know why there were 3 officers in one car. Usually there are only 2, but in a moment, you will understand why that was very lucky. The music got turned off a minute or 2 later, and just like as if there was a fire, people, backpacks and other objects started flying out of every door and window all at the same time. I could hear a whole lot of shouting through the floor, and the officer by the front door was literally blocking the doorway, trying to stem the massive flow of people trying to flee the scene. I made sure to take note of where the backpacks and bags that were thrown out landed, where there was tall grass and such, and kept listening, watching, and really wishing I had a tub of popcorn. Things calmed down pretty quickly after that, but the officers didn't come back out, so I stayed by the window, and soon another patrol car pulled up. Then another. Then one of those big ones for transporting uncooperative people, and another big one soon after that. You get the picture. After watching the parade of people in handcuffs disappearing into cars and being driven away, and waiting a bit to make sure everything was over, I went back outside and called over the officer I talked to earlier. "Hey, I don't really know what just happened, and I'm sure I don't want to know, but in case you are interested, I saw some backpacks, or something, fly from upstairs and into that field over there. I can point out the general area if you'd like." That was a lie, of course, but being the dutiful citizen I felt it was important to make sure they didn't miss anything. It could be important. A little bit of searching later, and the remaining officers left with a small pile of backpacks and bags, and I went to bed with a big smile on my face. Quiet at last. There's a little more to the aftermath, but this post is already long enough. I never saw some of them again before I moved away, and the ones remaining were a lot more considerate of our need for sleep. The next story is titled "The Difference Between Adjacent and Adjoining." Ever had to refer to a dictionary in front of guests? I spent 3 years as a holiday representative working hotels in Portugal and Spain, and the most nightmarish guests were in the first year. Not to say the company was sketchy, but I quickly learnt that I had to know the T's and C's, booking conditions, and specs of the hotels back to front. If the brochure said 350 meters to the beach and it was actually 500 meters? Woe betide the representative who hadn't reported it to their office, in triplicate. So many times I had to explain that requests were just that. 50% of the requests weren't even possible, or there was a specific charge for what they had requested. However, one of my most memorable discussions was with two couples who'd requested adjoining rooms and received adjoining rooms. Rooms that had a flimsy door between them, which they could apparently hear everything through. They wanted their rooms close by, which in a big, sprawling complex, wasn't entirely surprising. Even though they were good friends, there were certain things that neither couple wanted to hear or know about the other. They were close, but not that close. Of course, this was my fault. So, off I trotted to reception, to speak with the bemused Portuguese staff, who knew the accommodation contract even better than I did, and whose English was usually better than most guests. Adjoining is connecting, yes? They should have requested adjacent rooms, or rooms near each other. It is their fault. 21 Yomi hadn't appreciated this minor difference before now, but the front desk were well aware. They were total pros. Despite this small technical difficulty, one couple were moved to a different room, and the couples could henceforth listen to strangers farting, rather than their friends. Lovely. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.